Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I, of course, am Carl, and we are back with another very special episode of Vacuum Exposition. But it's not just Vacuum Exposition today. No, it's actually a little bit more than that today. Now, for those that have been watching my channel for a while now, and have been enjoying the content and giving me a lot of good feedback and saying what you want to see, I have gotten some suggestions on certain machines over the year or so that I've been doing this. And I've had a lot of great success with everything that we've done. Now, the reason why I say all this and the reason why I will continue on it in a second here is, well, today marks a very special anniversary for me. Not like that 40th anniversary Oric that we already took a look at, but no, today is my 100th episode of Vacuum Exposition. Now, I've been doing YouTube for quite some time, and there's a few more videos that I've done over the time, but this is the longest consecutive video series that I have ever done. Well, on this platform, anyways. Now, it has been quite a fun time. I mean, counting back, it's 100 Sundays since I've been doing this and putting out content for you guys, and it has been a blast. I guess it also falls at such a fortuitous time, being as that this is the New Year's show as well. So that's why it's also kind of special, because we are at the closing of 2024, and what a year it has been. A lot of machines have come my way without me doing a whole lot of looking, which has been great, but that hasn't stopped me from looking for them. And through that, and from the searches and the recent acquisitions and all that kind of great stuff, I've been able to provide you guys with even more content that I may not have been planning on, or what have you. It's been a really, really special year with my friends and family in terms of vacuum cleaners. I've had friends like my good friend Dan, who found a couple of machines for me this past year. And of course, that is always much, much appreciated. Anybody that takes an interest in what I do that is not necessarily a collector, I'm always extremely thankful for. As well as collector friends such as Mitchell Armstrong, as well as Jared Martinson, and a few more over the years have helped me kind of get to this point as well. Now, year 2024 is coming to a close, and year 2025, well, you'll just have to wait and see what we got in store for you. But I can tell you right now, we're going to be doing more series through different months. I have a series for January that I'm already kind of lining up right now, that specifically is going to pay homage to a certain Hoover vacuum cleaner that they released over the years, as well as many more series to come. And of course, if there are any series that you guys want to see, say you want to see like a month of Eureka ESPs, or a month of Dyson again, or a month of Kirby, or something like that, please drop them down below, because I'm always looking for new ideas. I come up with new episode and video ideas every single day. And I write them down in a journal, and I have about 3 of them right now, just with ideas of things that I could do, projects that I could start, projects that I could do for you guys, or just anything could come up. And I mean, I'm still doing the Vacuums Rescued series. I've done that a few times now this year, and it seemed to benefit a lot. So a lot of people have liked those and like seeing kind of the new wacky stuff that I find. And there will actually be a new one next week for our next video. So stay tuned for that. But these past 100 videos, my wife asked me just the other day, like, what have I learned after doing, all of this history of the Constellation Carl YouTube channel. And honestly, I've learned how to, I mean, not only how to produce content and edit, and gotten better and gotten sound figured out, things and different ways that I could bring things to you guys and bringing on other people, but it's also Well, it's really taught me a lot about what kind of vacuum cleaners more people are getting interested in, or what vacuum cleaners people are already interested in and want to see more of. Maybe there are things that are out on the internet that just there's not content on. Kind of like that wind tunnel 2 we did a little while back there. Um, there was hardly any videos of them really out there, and then I went and put mine out there, and it seemed like there was a couple more that came up after that, which is great. I'm glad to see the content coming out on it. I was reached out to by a couple other collectors after that, and they said that they had to have one after it just because it's such a funky machine. But that's not the only example that I've seen. I've had a lot of people that have contacted me asking me where I could find something that like I have, and sometimes it's a little bit harder than others to find stuff, but it really has been a joy, at least, being able to put all this information for you guys, because sometimes people just don't know where to look. Somebody asked me the other day at a dinner party that kind of what do I aim for with my videos? I guess I should probably reiterate this because I said it when I first started the channel, but I haven't really gotten into it since then. But my channel is not just for collectors. Um, in fact, I really want to touch more on the historical as well as the social type of impact that these particular pieces of machinery really have impacted or were impacted by. I absolutely love it when somebody that's not into vacuum cleaners hits me up and says, hey, really glad to see somebody putting information out about this. My parents had this thing when they were yada, yada, yada back in 19 so and so. And it's so great to actually see one, not just in a black and white photo or something like that. So um, I don't get into too detailed with my videos, as you guys will probably have noticed. I just want to make sure that people like see these things for what they are, and because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure out where everything came from, and we're going off of history that may not have been written down or may have been long since forgotten. So um, that's why I do what I do. That's why my channel exists the way it does. And I probably have said this before, but I spend hours and hours digging, trying to find information on stuff. I talk to a lot of people about confirming information and trying to find things like representation and ads and whatnot. So it has been a joy to not only be able to enjoy my collection and play with it from time to time and get things out and run them across the carpet again, but also to provide you guys and the future of YouTube to find my channel and my little corner of cyberspace, and hopefully provide you guys with a little bit more information that you never knew you wanted, or maybe you never thought you'd get. So, but it is, of course, like I said, this is the 100th episode, and a very special episode it is. Um, I had totally planned on doing another one of the runner-up vacuum cleaners that was going to go under my Christmas tree, which, if you haven't noticed, we're back in our regular spot. The tree got taken down yesterday, and everything is kind of back to normal, so to speak, in terms of the way my apartment looks again. But today's vacuum exposition, well, it was a bit serendipitous, and it was just so special. And upon discussing it with my wife, just kind of shooting some ideas at her for my video this week, it made sense for the 100th video to be something very, very special. So when I got the call about this particular machine, I immediately had to drop all my other projects, and that is why it is today's video vac. So without further ado, let's get on to our vacuum exposition and check out another really, really cool machine. All right, everybody. So this is what we have to take a look at today. Now, this particular machine has actually been quite the piece in my collection. Now, what we're looking at is a 1946 Kirby Model 505 in 100% all original condition. Now, I know anybody that's not a collector out there will be kind of wondering there, like, Carl, what are you talking about? All original condition? That's strange wording. what are you inferring? Are there vacuums that are unoriginal? And I mean, as far as originality goes, as long as it does its job, what's wrong? Now, for collectors, originality means a lot, and for some, everything, because vacuum cleaners are only original once from the factory. So when you get something that is in all original shape like this, and you find it after 80 plus years, it is quite a rare sight. Um, now, to a lot of people, a complete vacuum cleaner is just that. They have a bag or a collection system, and they suck things out of the ground. That's about it. That's about it. Um, but to find one of these particular machines, absolutely perfect from the factory, it is very, very difficult. Now, before I get into the history of this particular machine, how did I find it? Well, I'm glad you asked. And it is for that reason that this is a very special episode. Now, this particular machine came to me from my good friend Mitchell Armstrong. He's been on my channel before. He has contributed a lot to my collection, and I have done a lot of work for him on some of his stuff. We even went to visit him one time and did an interview. So Mitchell was out perusing the different vacuum shops about a week or so ago, and he went into one that was in my old stomping grounds over by Kirkland, Washington, and went in and introduced himself as a collector, and that sparked their memory, and they thought, well, oh, you're a collector. Well, would you be interested in this? Now, he was going in inquiring about anything in people's back rooms, if they're throwing stuff away or hucking it in the dumpster. And in the back, they found this. And I'll even show a picture of how it looked when he saw it right here. As you can see, it was just kind of in a dark, quiet basement, and you couldn't even see the box of attachments. It was somewhere around it, somewhere. And I couldn't see very much more, but as soon as I saw the bag being an original bag, I had to, of course, ask him, and it was then that he said that the Kirby was for me. So I was very, very grateful, and will eternally be grateful for that, um, and for him picking it up for me. And a couple of days ago, I had kind of talked it over with my wife, and being that this was a special episode, I asked him if we could meet up, and I had to do some more work on some machines for him, so he gave this to me a couple days ago. So I spent a good part of the day yesterday getting this all cosmetically looking great again, and it came out really, really well. So now, the history on this machine, why it's so rare, why it's so desirable, aside from being 100% original. Now, the Kirby 505 had a huge technological advancement on it that came in the form of what they called the handy finger, or the belt lifter, or they had a couple different names for it over the years, but essentially that was this right here. Now, this right here, this is the Kirby logo that's on the front, but of course, this actually turns. And this would turn and lift the belt off of the armature, or the vacuum drive shaft, if you will, so that it would be easier for you to take this whole nozzle piece off as one, rather than having just a cap right here, which most vacuums of this time had. With those caps, they often got lost. With this would stay on the machine, and you wouldn't have to try to use a screwdriver to take that belt off of the armature, which you normally had to do with the other older machines as well as other brands. Now, with this particular machine, it of course was made to be modular, so there was several different pieces that could go onto this machine with the hose and whatnot, and we'll take a look at that when we do our unboxing of the attachments. But this was a huge piece, and even Kirby's of today have a belt lifter mounted to the front, which makes it easier and saves you a lot of time when you're trying to get this ready to do other forms of cleaning. So that was a huge piece of the 505. Now, this is a later rendition. which is why it got this piece. Now, keeping in mind that mid 40s time frame when they were making these, that was when we were still in World War II. So for that reason, we saw the 505, and then we had a jump to the 508. So really, with these particular machines, these are the earliest form of the 500 series that Kirby was famous for, up until they went into the Classic series. So, but this particular machine, um, it has the original belt lifter, this black colored one with the orangey lettering on it. It does still have its original trim pieces, the original vulcanized rubber wheels, the original cord and conicular plug on it. You'll see right here. It, of course, retains the original bag and its gold piping that kind of goes up the front, as well as the red Kirby lettering up on there, right there. Um, in addition to that, it does have the original emptor tray. The emptor, if for those asking, is this big thing right here, which would assist you in dumping the bag. This was what was considered a dump bag setup. So essentially, it would suck everything up into the bag, and then when it came time to clean it out, there was this little switch you would flick, and this tray would kind of open, and you would dump that onto something like a newspaper or whatnot and wrap that up. Now, this also had a black tray. For those that don't know more about the early Kirby history, they also featured the emptor on those machines. That was for the C and R models, 1C all the way up to 4C, 1R, 4R, and so forth. But they usually had a metal tray. This was the first that they were going with kind of a black plastic tray on the bottom. Now, in addition to all of that, they also had this bag topper. This was the only model, to my knowledge, that came with a bag topper like this. I believe it's a rubber-coated metal bag topper. Very, very rare, very hard to find. You really, the whole bag setup is impossible to find, unless you get like a reproduction or replacement from a private reseller. The last and possibly the most important piece of this machine we are going to look at is the handle. Now, this handle grip right here is kind of it's made of a rubber material that came out around in the 40s. Now, with these, normally they're cracked. They're kind of loose fitting because they've stretched out over the years, or maybe they have like kind of like a bump at the end because they've been leaning up against a wall. But this is almost in perfect condition. If you didn't tell me how old this was, I would have told you that you would have somebody bought it today. And for that reason, I want to say that this particular machine, it had one of two fates, basically. The first fate is, of course, it went through the system as Kirby's usually do, where they're sold door to door. And this is particularly what I think really happened. But on some of the paperwork, and we'll take a look at it when we do the attachment unboxing, but it states an address in Sacramento, California. So what I'm thinking is that this particular machine was probably bought by someone that was needing a vacuum cleaner, whoever that was. They used it for a while, I'm guessing, but probably not long before they perhaps moved to Washington, and they took it into a vacuum shop, having not used it very much, and opted for something that was smaller or a little bit more manageable than a Kirby. Kirby's, even though these are quite a bit smaller than the ones of today, were still pretty heavy machines when they came out. So it wasn't easy for everybody to wield these things around on their floor. So after it was traded in, I'm guessing it was brought into the vacuum shop to try to sell. They probably put it out on the floor for a while, but after it wasn't selling and new models were coming out, they tucked it away in the basement, and that's where it sat until Mitchell found it. That's one theory I had. The other one, a little bit less interesting, or a lot less traveling, anyways. But possibly this could have been a demonstrator or one that was given to the shop and they sold other ones. Maybe this was for testing because it does have some scrapes on the nozzle, but not very much. and thus it didn't get used very much, and then they just tucked it away once it was outmoded, basically. So I'm not sure exactly what the history is on this particular machine, aside from where Mitchell found it. But either way, finding one of these 505s is absolutely impossible. Finding one of these in general is hard to find to begin with, but finding one that's original is a unicorn. And I had always wanted a 505. They're so cool, and the coloring, everything, it's just aesthetically pleasing compared to Kirby's of today, which have incidentally gone back to a chrome and black motif. For those that haven't seen the Platinum series that has just come out. But either way, I actually found a 505 when I was a kid that my dad won for me on eBay and thus made into a Christmas gift that year. So I had gotten one. It came with all of its attachments and everything, but it was pretty worse for wear. It had a replacement bag, a replacement cord. It had no handle grip on it. Half the wheels were broken in shipping, and the eBay seller had suddenly wiped their eBay clean and couldn't get a hold of them and tried to file something to get money back for damage in shipping, but of course, to no avail. And well, because I was the burgeoning Kirby fanatic at the time, I decided to try to piece my 505 together the best I could on a budget as a kid. And that was not easy when you didn't have a job. So I looked around and I got a replacement black bag off of eBay back when they were affordable for the most part. Dug out a black cord that kind of matched the machine. And then that was pretty much all I could do. I still need to find a new handle grip of some sort for it, but otherwise it was also missing its original model tag, and looks like it had come off at one point and somebody just haphazardly wrote mod 505 on the bottom of it. Now, unfortunately, that particular machine, while it is still displayed in my collection in storage, it is still not original, and it still needs a lot of parts and work to make it original. And maybe at some point I'll try to restore it um, and figure out what to do with it then. But let's move on to our unboxing of the attachments. So let's take a look at what we got in there. All right, everybody. So first up, and one thing that I didn't know was quite as rare as when I picked everything out, was this. Now in here is a revolving brush floor polisher. And as you can see right here, what it would have been is this big brush, and it had a plate on top of it that would have essentially clipped to the front of the 505, and thus had a big long belt that would have gone up and attached to the armature. That way you could polish your floors. Of course, this would also have the handle that would lock so that you could just kind of use it as a floor polisher. So this one is also dated September 6th of 1946 here on the box, which leads more to the confirmation of the date of this particular machine. So that is a little bit of a rare one. It also comes with the directions on how to use this. It came across as more of like a company memo, which is actually pretty interesting. But so that was the first piece that was in here. We'll set that there. Next up, we have this piece right here. Now, I know it doesn't look anything too interesting, but what it does, this is actually a hard surface or hard floor attachment that would have gone on the Kirby. So this would actually just click onto the bottom, kind of like the floor polisher, and you would disconnect your belt so it wasn't just spinning the brush roll on top of this, and thus only use suction in order to do like the hardwood and such. Because with brush rolls, it tends to just kind of fling things out the back when you're using it on hard surfaces. So this was actually a pretty important tool for those places with marble flooring and stuff like that. So very cool tool right here. And for our regular attachments, we had first your dusting brush or your upholstery tool. So how it would start is you had your upholstery tool. So you had done your chairs and sofas and all kinds of that stuff with this. Well, what if you had countertops that you wanted to do too? And you wanted to try to get dusting done. Well, then you had this little attachment. So what you would do is you take this, you just put it in the groove right here. There is a kind of a metal switch right there you would have clicked on, and thus you would have had a dusting brush essentially for wider spaces on your countertops. So very cool little tool there. Now this little piece right here, it doesn't look like much, and it really isn't too much, but it's a machined out piece of aluminum that you would essentially have put back here where the bag attaches. So for this, you would detach the bag, and this is how you would connect the hose to the machine in order to use it as a blower. So if you were like using it to blow like moth crystals or something like that, this is how you would have done that. So very important little tool right there. In addition, we also had a crevice tool, kind of hard to see with my shirt on being black, but essentially this would have been what you'd have done your crevices with. It's got a few nicks and scratches on it, but not too terrible. But still very important to have for this machine. Um, Now, getting into one of the bigger attachments here, this would have been your extension wand. Of course, you would have put on things like your crevice tool onto that and done little areas around your house with it, done the kind of the dusting and whatnot. So very important piece to have with this. So that is that. Next, you would have had your actual dusting brush itself. So this is what you would have done, like the coffee tables and little dusting around knickknacks and things, or maybe on top of the ceiling fan when you had it connected up to this. So very, handy when doing other dusting. So that I believe is actually even made out of horsehair. So very handy there. Next thing we would have had was this jarred container. So this is what I was talking about with the mothamizer, the kind of blue moth crystals. This was a blower attachment that essentially you would have put stuff in this for cleaning or moth crystals, and you would have blown it over, your various garments or things to keep them protected from moths, or if you were doing some like shampooing or something, you would use this normally. This old you don't usually see used, at least from what I've experienced. So they're not necessarily always the most handy for people, but still awesome to see included with this. And it even has the instructions in here as well. So, lastly, for the attachments, we have this little handle right here. You can kind of see it. Kind of see it better right here, actually. But it is kind of a black crinkle painted handle with a strap. This is the way that you would have made this machine into a canister vacuum for any dusting. And by that, what you would have done is you would have attached the hook for the other side of the strap onto the back of the handle, and then connected this where the handle pivots, because the whole handle does come off of the Kirby, for those that didn't know. And then you would have slung the whole vacuum over your shoulder with the hose connected to the front. And you would have been able to do all of your assorted dusting. So very, very handy machine. Kirby's do still even come with one of these, but it is very important to see one of these because you don't usually see them with the older machines anymore. So very, very, very handy. Now, last but surely not least of the attachments is the hose. Now, this is an original Kirby 505 hose. It does still have the connector that goes on the front, but in order to put on the blower, it would have just twisted off. So very, very handy there. So that would connect right there after you would have taken the whole front end of the machine off. But the 505 hose did come with a little bit of a head nod to the coloring of the machine, in which you would have had these check marks that formed a stripe all the way coiled up the hose. So you would have had two yellow or gold stripes that were kind of sandwiching one red stripe, which is kind of hard to tell just because it's a little bit faded, but either way, it is the original hose that went with this machine. Now, moving on to the other contents of the box, we actually had some really cool paraphernalia that were in this box as well. The first, but maybe less known fact, would be the original replacement belt that they would have gotten with the Kirby. So the belt that's actually on this is the factory belt that came with this 505. So this particular one is the replacement that they would have included in the box when you got this machine, which unfortunately, because this one is old and aged and kind of checked, it does have cracks in it, so unfortunately it can't be used again. But it's nice to see, and it just adds to the history of this machine. So very, very interesting. Now, in addition to that, we also had this. This is a little pamphlet that the door-to-door salesman would give to you. It does have that address in Sacramento, California on the back here. But this is what they would have given you when they came in to do the demo on the machine. And I will show some close-up pictures of this right here, actually. But on the front, it says Kirby Controlled Air Force, which I just find so cool, as well as talking about the Sani mTOR that was the thing right here that we talked about a little bit ago. So very, very interesting to have this included there. In addition to that, we also had the original owner's manual. Now, I have another 505 owner's manual that I actually framed a long time ago. So these are quite rare, but this particular one is a little bit different, but it does show you how to do everything on this machine, including things like oiling the bearings, changing the headlight, changing the belt, changing, doing everything that a lot of now vacuum owners don't do very much, because either they get it serviced by somebody or, well, they just throw it away and get a new one. So very, very interesting to have the original manual included with this one. So next, we actually have another hang tag that came off of a different vacuum, most likely a Hoover, from the same time, which kind of corroborates to the theory that this may have sat on a sales floor for quite a bit, because it looks like maybe it was with some other older Hoovers, like the 26 or the 27, and maybe somebody had bought it, and or maybe they got stashed together, and somebody took the hang tag off of it, which just kind of shows you how to do the belts and everything, and just tossed it in this box, which I find really interesting. But either way, it just kind of adds to the history. Last but certainly not least is this, and I'll show you a picture of this up close. But what this says, OPA ceiling price on the Kirby vacuum cleaner model number 505 with the standard set of cleaning tools is $89.50. West of the Rockies, $91 straight. And then it gives a couple other little pricing on some other additional attachments. What that says is the original price for this, because we are west of the Rockies over here, is that this machine was originally $91 in 1946. With inflation, that comes out to being about $1,500 to $1,600. So this was a big money item back then. I mean, $90 back in that time frame, that was a house payment. That was, or probably even more. That was multiple house payments. So this is a very, very, very significant machine. And to have the original hang tag, which would have just hung right there, on up on the handle, shows us just kind of what we were looking at in terms of pricing on these machines. So very, very important pieces of paper in this particular set. But that's what we got in our little attachment box set, which really just says that this thing is 100% original and complete and really the way it was meant to be. So, but anyways, let's get on to our run demo and see how this thing does on the floor. All right, everybody, so we have the old 505 all plugged in and ready to rock. So let's get this thing all wound up and see how it does on the floor.
Well, the old 505 still has plenty of power to compete with the machines of today, and thus did a great job on the floor, even for being over 80 years old. So I hope you all enjoyed our little run demo for today.
Well, everybody, thank you again for tuning in today. I know that this is a little bit older of a machine, and not everybody's always into the older machines, but I like to have a very eclectic taste when it comes with my vacuum cleaners, and I am not picky about anything in particular. So I will sometimes do an older machine, sometimes I'll do a newer machine. So this is a special episode for me, being as this is one that has been on my bucket list for a very long time, or at least on my bucket list to make original or complete. So it was very, very fun to be able to get this thing out, cleaned up, and now making it a part of my collection. And of course, a huge thank you to Mitchell Armstrong for finding this and giving this to me, because I absolutely love it, and it is not going anywhere anytime soon. But just to finally make one of these in my collection happen is a big thing for me. Of course, this is my 100th episode, so it is a special one, which is why I figured this was the perfect one for it. And being as it's New Year's, and this is the last video I'll be making before 2025 begins. It is a pretty cool one to cap off the year with. So, but it has been a really fun year though. We've had a lot of really cool things come into my collection, as well as met a lot of great people. Of course, I've been able to find some things from friends that haven't really been into vacuums before, so that's always a huge, huge, huge um, thing for me, as well as just being able to reach an audience that isn't necessarily into vacuums. So it is, of course, because of those people that we are growing, and of course, vacuum collectors. You guys know who you are. You guys have helped me grow my channel exponentially. So a huge, huge, huge thank you to everybody out there who's been watching since the beginning. Of course, this first 100 is the first step in the success of this channel as well as my collection. So a huge, huge thank you to everybody out there watching today. And as always, we will be back in 2025 with more episodes, more series. But either way, here's to another year of vacuum cleaners and vacuum exposition. Um, Thank you all again for watching today. We will catch you in 2025, and where we will be back with the same guy, same place, same time, different vacuum or vacuums. And we will see you again next time. Have a great rest of your day, y'all, and Happy New Year's.